It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, David Deckent, the training consultant and curriculum development coordinator at Best Care EAP. So take it away, David.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Tara mentioned, my name is Dave. I'm with Best Care EAP, and I'm proud to say that we are the Employee Assistance Program for the Methodist Health System. And today, folks, we're going to be talking about a very important topic when it comes to your ongoing professional development and career success, and that is building your personal brand. Before I get started, though, I take care of just a couple of administrative details on my end. Detail number one, if you haven't had a session with me before, excuse me, there are a couple of things you should probably know about me. First of all, as far as my qualifications for talking about this topic, my background actually is in organizational psychology. And my primary focus is what is it that people need to thrive at work? And it's becoming increasingly clear to me and a lot of other folks that one of the things that's going to be important, especially if we want to make sure that we are a proper fit for our organization, that we are pursuing the opportunities that we want to pursue and that we want to achieve what we want to achieve, that building a personal brand that helps you understand yourself, identify your audience, and connect with the people that you want to connect with and serve folks in the way that you want to serve them is a pretty important tool. So anyway, I've been doing this now for about 20 years with Best Care EAP, generally speaking. Before that, I taught out at Bellevue University in their Master's in Management program. So bottom line, this is my first rodeo. One last point, and I promise we'll get started then. And that is, folks, one of the great things about webinars is that they're so convenient. But that convenience does come at a price, and the price is focus. Whether you're watching this at work or at home or wherever you are, others assume that you are at work or that you're available to talk to. So it's going to be very tempting to kind of connect with people as they ask you questions. And also, let's be honest, it's going to be a little bit tempting to try to multitask. But let me stress, folks, human beings are not designed to multitask. So to get the most out of the information I want to share with you in this next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to encourage you to, if you have a door, shut it. If you have a phone, silence it for the next little while. If the phone is near you, and go ahead and silence that for the next little while. I like to use mine as a timer. If you have any other applications open on your computer right now, and it's okay for you to minimize those, I would also encourage you to minimize those as well. So let's go ahead and get started. And the idea today is, how do we build a personal brand? Well, first of all, let's kind of put this into context and talk about the fact that most of us are probably already familiar with corporate brands, with commercial brands. In fact, here's the first little exercise I'd like to do. I take it, is everybody here pretty familiar with all 6 of these particular brands? I can assume that people are. And I would like you to do, folks, if you wouldn't mind, pick one and pop into the chat. When you look at that particular brand that you're familiar with, what do you think about that company? How do you feel about that company? What's the reputation in a sense? What do you expect out of them? So pick one, if you would, please, and just put something into the chat. I've got 6 pretty common logos or logos up here. I'd like everybody to pick one and then ask yourself, when I look at this particular logo, what do I think about the company? How do I feel about that company? What do I expect from that particular company? And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and pop that into the chat. Or we got enough. Actually, we got enough people here. I'm thinking the number of people would be, I think, okay, Tara, for people to unmute if they'd like to and share what they're feeling. But everybody, if you would, please maybe pick one and ask yourself, what do I think about this company? How do I feel about them? What do I expect out of them?
Starbucks, love it, but it's too expensive and I shouldn't go as much as I do.
Okay, well, it definitely has you've got some strong emotional connection there. Strong emotional connection. Anybody else? Thank you. By the way, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
We have Apple, new technology, iPhones, iPads.
Okay. So that's what I'm getting hearing. When you look at Apple, you think, aha, cutting edge, newest technology.
We have another comment. I have a similar feeling towards Target as Emily does towards Starbucks.
I don't know. With me and Target, whenever I look at the Target logo, I think, okay, young, hip, trendy, lower prices, cleaner than Walmart.
Michael Jordan for Nike.
There you go. And okay, so I guess what I'm simply saying, folks, is that I don't okay, what's the reason I go ahead and put this up? The reason I put this up here, folks, is to let you know that companies are very aware of their idea of their brand, how people say, and what is a brand really? It's how a company wants you to see them, how do you want them to, they want you to feel about them. So they want you to be able to, in a sense, that when I've got my brand out there, and I'm a company and I have my brand out there, I want people to think about me in a certain way. I want them to feel about me in a certain way. I want them to expect certain things out of me. So, for example, going back to, let me just take a second and go back to the Apple logo there. I think when I think of Apple, I think of, okay, I'm thinking of new technology. It's going to be cutting edge. It's going to be hip and easy to. It's going to be hip. It's edgy. It's easy to use, and it's probably going to cost me an arm and a leg. I don't think that's quite what they're wanting. But again, what a brand about, folks, is what companies are trying to do is they want you to think about them and think about them in a specific way, feel about them in a specific way, and expect certain things from them. And they're doing this to differentiate themselves from their competitors in a highly competitive global market. And companies spent upward of about, I think was it last year, they spent about $515 billion doing these kinds of things. Now, what does this have to do with us? Well, folks, whether we accept it or not, all of us, folks, are in a rapidly changing, highly competitive labor market. And if we are going to succeed to the extent that we want to, that if we're going to be able to use the talents we want in the arenas that we want, serving the people that we want, we need to develop our own personal brand. In fact, I think it goes without saying, folks, is that we already have, each one of you, I have, and everyone here, Tara has, everyone has, they already have their own personal brand. As people are working with us for any length of time, they do think about us in specific ways. They do expect certain things from us. They do feel about us in certain ways. What I'm going to argue, folks, is that being that healthcare in and of itself is a rapidly changing, highly competitive industry, that we need to take control of that personal brand. We need to be a lot more mindful about what it is and a lot more intentional about how we use it. So in this program today, what I'd like to do is give you an introduction into personal branding, what it is. So for example, we're talking about what exactly is a personal brand, and how does your personal brand differ from your reputation? Because it might seem that, oh yeah, personal brand, that's just a new buzzy word of saying my reputation. Well, your reputation and your personal brand do overlap, but there are some significant and important differences that you need to be aware of. We'll also talk a little bit about the advantages of having a personal brand, and I'll also lay out the process about how does one go about actually building a personal brand. And we'll get you started on the beginnings of this and the most important part of your personal brand, and that is your unique value statement. I'll also point you towards some additional resources, and of course, how Best Care EAP can help you. So if that all sounds pretty good to you, are there any questions about anything we've talked about so far, about me, my background, or what we're going to be talking about today? Or are we still all connecting? All right, then. So let's kind of dive on in and talk a little bit more about personal branding. Because again, what we want to do here is understand, okay, what is personal branding about? So first of all, what exactly is a personal brand? Well, essentially, what Jeff Bezos, head of Amazon, says is your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not around. But I think it's a little bit more than that. I would say that a good way to understand what a personal brand is about is that it is your personal story. It's a personal brand communicates who you are as a person, what do you value, what are your values, what are the skills that you have that you want to use, who do you want to serve, and in what arenas do you want to serve them. So it's essentially your personal stories, and so it communicates your unique qualities and skills. And we're doing this because we want to connect with the people that we want to serve, or as they talk about it in marketing, we want to connect with our target audience. And not only that, but it should reflect your values and beliefs. And more importantly, what makes you special? What makes you special? What makes you unique among the people that you from your competitors in a lot of ways? So again, it's your personal stories. Who are you? What do you value? What are your skills? Where do you want to use them? Who are the people you want to serve? And what makes you different from other people? In other words, why should people engage you? Why should they hire you? Why should they want to interact with you as opposed to other perhaps equally qualified people? So that's what a personal brand is about. So what makes a personal brand effective? How do you know a personal brand? Well, first of all, folks, a personal brand has to be effective. In other words, it has to be based on a rigorous amount of honesty. You cannot fake a personal brand. Why not? Because what a personal brand is it's a communication tool that you're going to be communicating to a lot of people over a long period of time. And if it's not accurate, if it doesn't really reflect who you are and what you're really good at and who you want to serve, then over time, there are going to be consistencies that people are going to be able to spot. And if there are inconsistencies and you don't, what's eventually going to happen is people are going to get the idea that, no, this person really isn't being accurate. They're not being honest with me. All right. So first of all, this has to be based on and come out of a rigorous honesty, a really honest appreciation of who you are. Secondly, it has to be coherent. What do I mean by that? That once you establish these values, you have to be sending out essentially pretty much the same message across all the different ways you're going to be communicating. Because remember, this is going to be a communication tool, and you're going to be communicating in a lot of different spheres. You're going to be communicating one-on-one with people as you're serving them. You may be interacting with people one-on-one as you're taking part in professional organizations. You'll be whether you're out if you have an internet presence. Okay, you're on TikTok or LinkedIn or Snapchat. It has to be coherent across these different platforms because once again, people will see you in different locations. All right, they might meet you on while you're working with them. They might see you at a conference. They might read about you on when you're posting on things. And if again there isn't a consistent message, if the brand that you're communicating isn't the same across these various platforms, then once again, you're going to get a dissonance going you're going to be sending a mixed message, which will dilute the power of that message. So it has to be honest, and it has to be coherent, and it has to be consistent. The third thing a great brand does, folks, is that it's compelling. In other words, what makes it compelling is what is it that draws people to you? What is it about you and your unique story, your unique combination of values and skills that makes you stand out, that makes people want to connect with you as opposed to somebody else? And once again, related to that, a good brand is differentiated. In other words, when I'm talking to Tara, when I'm looking at Tara and I'm thinking about Tara's brand, I know that I'm working with a professional who's got qualities that I want to connect with, and she stands out from all the other people that I could possibly connect with. So these are the things that we want to keep in mind. It's got to be based on honesty. It's got to be consistent across all the different places and ways that we communicate. It has to be uniquely you, because it's what makes you special is what makes you compelling. What makes you unique is what makes you compelling. And it does need to differentiate you in a way that you do stand out. And folks, again, if you're honest and coherent, if you are sharing what's unique about you, you will stand out. So these are the aspects of a personal brand. Okay. Now, at this point, I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes a personal brand different from your reputation. And there are differences, and then we'll stop for just maybe some questions. So here we go. So how does your personal brand differentiate you? Well, how is it different from your reputation? Because a lot of people might say, well, that's just another buzzword for reputation, isn't it? Well, there is some overlap, but there are some important differences. Okay, number one, all right. Number one, a personal brand is a lot more intentional. In other words, I create my personal brand based on who I am and my own experience and what makes me unique. My personal brand is something that I'm crafting. Your reputation, folks, is a sort of a synthesis of all the people's opinions of you. Okay, so a personal brand is crafted by you, you control it. A reputation is formed by other people. Okay, and the interesting about a personal brand, folks, is as you grow, as you grow as a professional, okay, as you grow as a professional, as you take on new challenges or gain new interests, then when you take control of your personal brand, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to go ahead and reshape that personal brand than a reputation. Because one of the things you'll notice, people, for the most part, people do change careers, over the course of their life. Most people don't stay in one role most of their lives. In case in point, for me, for a while, I was in the sphere of being a professional, trying to be a professional actor. I then moved into public relations. I then moved into marketing. I then moved into organizational psychology. So as I grew as a professional and I had new experiences and found myself seeking new challenges and new interests, I can go ahead and then shape that brand to reflect my growth as a professional. It's a lot more difficult, all right, to control or shape a reputation, because once people have a feeling about you, they've made a decision about you, then that's a lot more difficult to change. So personal brands are more easily reshaped. Thirdly, personal brands often focus on more specific kinds of professional areas. Most personal brands are based in people trying to shape and direct their professional lives, whereas a reputation is a much more global sort of a broader and more global evaluation of your character and your standing. Okay, and finally, personal brands really have a big impact on the opportunities and goals that you're trying to achieve, especially when you're networking with other people. Whereas reputations, again, once more, well, again, they tend to be more global. So those are the big differences. But I would say if I was going to summarize those differences, I would summarize as the following. Personal brands are things that you can control. Reputations are not. Personal brands can evolve with you as you grow as a person. Reputations, not quite so much. Okay, personal brands, powerful tools in a professional area, reputations more globally. So at this point, are there any questions about personal brands or how they differentiate from reputations at this point?
No questions coming in.
Okay, all right, well then we'll just keep going then. So what are the advantages? Well, I think let me just kind of quickly summarize the advantages so far. I mean, the major advantages that I've been talking about so far are I can shape my personal brand. I can control it. I can also evolve my personal brand as I move forward in my career. But let's talk about the more specific, very quickly lay out the more specific advantages. In other words, why should you put the time and effort into developing a personal brand? Well, first of all, number one, especially think about this, healthcare is becoming a very highly competitive environment. And if you want to achieve your professional goals, then this is going to be pretty useful because number one, you're going to get increased invisibility. You're going to stand out from the competition. It does also offer you career flexibility because, again, as you evolve as a person, a professional, you're going to be able to reshape that. Something else that's also important, people who put in the time and effort to build a accurate, coherent, and compelling personal brand tend to have stronger personal brands. They tend to command higher salaries. They earn more money. In fact, that can be a more recent study said that people with a strong personal brand can earn up to 10% or more than their equally competent companions, their competition, people that are just as smart and clever and good at their jobs as other people. They can earn up to 10% more. So there is a financial benefit to this as well. Okay. Also, when you build a strong personal brand, then you're in a position to start to set yourself up to be a thought leader. Okay. In other words, someone who is on the cutting edge of a particular profession in terms of understanding the research, applying it, seeing new trends, hopefully taking your profession in a direction that you think it needs to go. Okay. It also improves, again, people can, if we give a strong personal brand that you communicate consistently, people tend to trust you more. You tend to improve your credibility. Okay. And not to mention that when you have a strong personal brand, it's a lot easier to network, not only with the clients that you want to connect with, but also with colleagues that you want to build professional relationships with, connections into, again, other organizations, large, maybe professionals at a national level. It just, again, makes you a lot easier to connect with the people that you want to connect with as you want to grow as professionals, but when you also want to share what you have learned as professionals. Okay. Not to mention that in the work that goes into making a personal brand, you really increase your self-awareness. You learn an awful lot about yourself. And it also challenges you to continue to learn, because personal brands, like anything else, have a bit of a shelf life. And so it's going to motivate you to continue to stay on top of your profession, to keep your personal brand current and fresh. And it's also a way to, again, hold yourself accountable, to challenge yourself, to hold yourself accountable so that you don't become complacent. So there's a lot of reasons, not to mention that it allows you to develop ultimately a digital footprint. What do I mean by that? Well, folks, more and more of what we're doing in this world is happening online. And being able to have a reputation for excellence, for service. Again, a lot of this is now being communicated online, and having a strong brand allows you to do that a little bit more easily. Okay, so there's a lot of reasons for doing this. So, how are we doing on time here? So I'm going to assume at this point. Let me just ask you this. Can we assume at this point that you all understand that given the competitiveness of the economy at large, but also healthcare in general, that it might be worth the time and effort to build a personal brand? I guess that's what I've been trying to communicate so far. And please pop a yes or no into this at this point to see if maybe at least at this point I've been able to communicate the necessity for this. Or in other words, have I piqued your interest in building a personal brand?
Yes, we're getting comments. Yes.
Okay. Well, okay, so having hopefully made the case for building a personal brand, let's talk about how we go about actually building one. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the general process here, and then we're going to focus on what's going to happen here. Now, there are a number of steps in this. The first one is to define what we call your unique value proposition. Okay, and your unique value proposition is a statement that clarifies who you are, what you have, in other words, who you are in terms of a person, your values, what's important to you, the talents, what you bring to the table, all right, what makes you unique, who you want to serve, and in what category, and in what domains. So this is a statement. Okay, so what makes you stand out, who you are, what's important to you, what do you bring to the party, why someone would want to connect with you and not somebody else. All right. Then after you do that, then you want to clarify who are the people that you want to serve. Who is, in a sense, and this is now marketing talk, who is your target audience? Who do you want to have pay attention to you? Patients, clients, families, other professionals. And there are other professionals in your field, other professionals in related fields, local, state, whatever the case may be. Who do you want to connect with? Who do you want to serve? That's your target audience. You want to identify those people as precisely as possible. All right. Third thing you want to do is you want to do consistent branding across all platforms. What does that mean? Okay. When you are communicating connecting with your target audience, there's a lot of ways you're going to be doing that. You're going to be doing it face-to-face in real time. You can also do it online. Again, you can also do it online in various kinds of platforms like LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. There's a lot of communication tools out there. You also have professional organizations and taking part in professional organizations, interest groups. There's a lot of forums that you will be connecting. There will be a lot of forums where you're going to be able to connect with the people that you want to serve. So that's the platforms we're talking about. In-person, digital, professional organizations, interest groups, community service, all these opportunities. Consistent branding means that you are communicating your value proposition consistently across all of these, so that you're not coming, for example, coming across as a thoughtful, research-driven, compassionate professional on LinkedIn, but when you're on Snapchat, you're in Acapulco partying or something. Okay, you want to be consistent across all these platforms. Okay, then from that standpoint, once you've gotten doing that, then you need to provide valuable content. What does that mean? Well, it's basically means is you're going to be offering solid service, and that can take the place of the nursing or the other professional things that you're doing. It could be in doing research, sharing that research with other people, writing about the implications or trends that you see. In other words, producing things that people can actually use. Okay, that's what we mean by that. And then developing your network. That means taking the time to be regularly in touch with the people that you want to serve. And related to that, then again, is to optimize your online presence. What's going to be the right mix for you? Is it going to be primarily face-to-face? Is it going to be through, say, LinkedIn, or is it going to be in interest groups? Is it going to be on Snapchat or TikTok, or having your own website, or whatever the case may be? Because again, we want to optimize the online presence, as I said earlier, because so much more of what we're doing, increasingly, everything we're doing is more and more and more of it is going online. So we have to be prepared for that, even in something as personal as healthcare. Okay, so there is a process here. And let me warn you ahead of time, folks. This is not something you're going to be able to do in an afternoon. Okay, it's probably going to take days, weeks, and months of effort to get this going. But I'm hoping I'm communicating to you that given the kind of competitive world that we're in, the kind of world where so much of this is now online, this is going to be worth doing. So be patient, be willing to put in the time, because it will yield significant benefits later on, because you're going to be, when you do this right, folks, you're going to be living your values in a way that makes you content and happy and feeling good about yourself. You're going to be using the skills that you truly love, serving the people that you care most about in an arena that really allows you to shine. So this can have a profound impact on your long-term professional development. So with that in mind, what I want to do in the time I've got left today is get us started on the foundational piece, and the one that might in a lot of ways take the most time, and that is to develop your unique value proposition. Let's talk about your unique proposition. Okay, so everybody, if you would, please, if you can, if you're able to do this, why don't you grab yourself a sticky note or a piece of paper and something to write with, and I'm going to start sharing with you some questions you need to ask yourself. Ask yourself, all right? Because what we're going to be doing, folks, is we're going to be creating at this point, or getting you to start creating your own unique value proposition, okay? This is going to allow you to identify what your unique strengths, your skills, your passions, and your values are, okay? It's going to help you determine what's different about you from other people and help you create a compelling personal brand that expresses who you are. And oh, by the way, before we get into that, let me kind of give you a couple of examples of some, I think, some pretty effective examples of a unique proposition here. Jay Clouse, who's the founder of Creator Science. Now, this is a media company that helps professionals grow their business. Okay, and we're talking about professional creators. We're talking about people like we're writers, photographers, people, again, thought leaders, computer programs, application developers. He helps them grow their business. And his proposition is, I help people become professional creators. I think that really cuts to the sense of what he communicates. He seems to, in that statement, I help people become professional communicators. To me, that communicates the fact that he's going to be helping people in the sense he's generous. He's going to be, he knows exactly who he wants to be able to help, and that is professional communicators, professional creators. It's very direct, and I happen to like this. Tony Robbins, I was going to ask, how many people here are familiar with Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker? Kind of curious if Tony Robbins is still in people's awareness. Tony Robbins has been around for quite a few years now, and I like this one a lot. It's called The Secret to Life is Giving. And that I think that communicates the sense of the essence of what his message has been all these years, that to be truly happy, you have to find out what your passion is and give it away. So a lot of different possibilities here. But anyway, I guess the reason I brought this up is, folks, is that a personal value proposition, ultimately, you're going to be boiling it down to a very short thing that communicates your values directly or indirectly, and it doesn't have to be again paragraphs and book chapters long. Okay, but a good one cuts to the heart and reflects who you are. So let's get started on this. So here's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be sharing with you some questions now, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to think about that. So let's just start with the basics here. Let's talk about motivation. What drives you? What gets you out of the bed? What gets you out of the bed in the morning? What gets you up? What gets you going? What drives you? Why did you go? For example, if you're in the healthcare field, why did you go into healthcare in the first place? I mean, you folks are smart people out there. There's probably half a dozen different career paths you could have taken. What is it about healthcare? What drives you? What motivates you? Is it serving people? Is it growing professionally, growing as a person? Is it attaining fame? Is it what is it really? So let's start with what drives you. Okay, for me, is I like to learn. I'm kind of restless, and I'm kind of restless at the fact that I always want to know more than I know, and I also want to share it with other people. Okay, so what drives you? Okay, next question. What do I enjoy? What do I struggle with? What do you enjoy doing? What energizes you? And what are those things that you struggle with? What do you enjoy doing? What do you struggle with? For me, I enjoy sharing what I've learned with other people. What do I struggle with? Staying organized. That's a big, I guess that goes back to me being so restless, really. What energizes you? What are those tasks that energize you? What are those tasks that drain you? Here's a really useful one. What do people compliment you on? What do people compliment you on? Some other questions you can ask yourself is, how do I want to be known? How would I like people to describe me? Okay. And then what makes me different from others in my field? And as an example for me, what makes me different from others in my field? Most people who do training come from business, or they come from psychology or business or marketing or communications. I came from originally from the fine and performing arts, theater. That's what differentiates me. But this is the start. When you can, I'll put it this way, when you can come up with clear, concise answers to all these things, of what drives you, what do you enjoy, what do you struggle with, what tasks energize you, what do people compliment you on, how do you want to be known, what makes you different from others in your field. See, these are the kinds of things, folks. Your unique value proposition is going to be able to concisely answer all of these things. And this is the one that's probably going to take the most amount of time. And it's going to challenge you to be super honest with yourself. And if you don't know exactly where to start, I think this is also a great place just to talk to family and friends. Ask your family and your friends what they see in you in regards to these things. And and typically I would say, if you're trying to get a more objective view of yourself, you want to talk to a lot of different kinds of people, and then sometimes your friends will tell you what you want to hear. But think about it this way: the input that you have from people who are close to you, your family and friends, in this kind of situation, could give you a good hint as to what is it that attracts them to you, and whatever attracts you to them is probably going to be those kinds of qualities that will attract you to the kind of people that you want to serve. It will help you understand what might attract you to your target audience. Okay. So at this point, folks, I might want to say, I would like to say that, are there any questions at this point? But again, Terry, you're going to be recording this, so you are going to be able to go back and maybe find some more of these questions, though. But are there any other questions? Are there any questions at this point, or questions or comments, or how about this, or what about that, or Dave, you're full of it, whatever the case may be at this point? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll take a look at it. Oh yeah. Well, we're starting to come to the end of our time now, folks. So let me do this. I just want you to know that because this is such an important part of becoming the professional that you want to be these days, since understanding what a personal brand is about putting the time and effort to develop a personal brand, and because it has become so important for people who want to attain the level of professional success that they want, that there's a lot of great resources out there. So I'm going to point you towards 3 that I found particularly interesting, especially if you're coming into this somewhat new, because the tools out there for, especially when it comes to optimizing your online footprint, for understanding your target audience, the tools out there are just really amazing in their level of complexity and also their level of sophistication. But again, if you've decided that yes, personal brand is something I want to develop, I want to communicate out there, then these are 3 that I think you'll find especially useful. Personal Branding for Dummies. And before anybody gets upset about this, let me take a moment or two, make a very quick moment, and extol the value of the whole For Dummies series. For Dummies series have been around for about, oh my gosh, for a couple of decades now. And what I love about those books is that if you're brand new to a topic, whether that's building a personal brand or computer programming or understanding Islam or growing, fixing home plumbing problems, if there's anything that you're really interested in and you're coming to it brand new, these are a great place to start. They help you understand what's going on, the context, they give you the vocabulary, they give you the fundamental skills. And the vast majority of the time, these are written by experts in their field who have no real axe to grind with anything. So Personal Branding for Dummies, excellent introduction to this. Then also Reinventing You, Defining Your Personal Brand by Clark. And also, if you're looking for a much more detailed step-by-step approach to building a personal brand, then Branding Pays, the 5-Step System is, by Kang, is excellent. just wonderful. Again, the whole idea here in offering this is to help you understand that a personal brand is a very effective tool for helping you build the kind of professional success that you want. That there is a process to it, that while it might be that you might have to invest a fair amount of time and energy in this, that it's well worth it, and that you've got an outline of where to start. So any questions or comments at this point, or what shall we see?
Yeah, Dave, I'm not seeing any questions come through.
All right. Well, folks, at any time, if that's the case, well, folks, I want to thank you for spending this time with me today. As always, go out there, have fun, stay safe, and make sure you're home in time for supper. Take care, everyone.
That concludes the online education. I would like to thank all of our presenters for their experience, knowledge, and expertise. Be sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of Nebraska Methodist College's continuing education offerings. Thank you.